Smoke rose above McAlester, Oklahoma, that summer night in 1973. From miles away, the glow of flames could be seen above the walls of the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. Inside, sirens screamed, doors slammed, and the air was filled with the echo of chaos. Prisoners were shouting in every direction. Some were waving broken furniture, others running to the smoke-filled corridors. Fire burned to the laundry building, sending sparks into the night sky. Guards were trapped in the administration wing, trying to radio for help as the heat and noise grew worse. Outside, police lights flashed red and blue across the prison walls. No one knew if they would make it out alive. Just hours before, the prison had been tense but quiet. The summer heat made the air thick and heavy, and the smell of sweat and metal filled the cell blocks. The overcrowding was unbearable. More than 2,000 men locked inside a place built for half that number. Showers didn't work. Food was often spoiled. Medical care was nearly non-existent. For months, the prisoners had complained, but no one listened. They were tired of being ignored. That afternoon, several inmates gathered near the mess hall. They whispered plans, glancing to guards who walked by without noticing. Rumors had spread that a protest was coming. But what started as talk would soon explode into something far worse. It began with a single shout. A prisoner in cell block, yelled that he'd had enough. His voice echoed to the metal bars, and others began to join him. Within minutes, fists were pounding on steel doors, a deep, angry rhythm that rolled through the prison like thunder. Guards rushed to contain it, but the sound only grew louder. Then came the crash, a door forced open by sheer numbers. Inmates poured out into the hallway, shouting for justice, for freedom, for change. No one could stop it now. Alarms blared as fires broke out in 2 different buildings. Some prisoners ran to the corridors carrying makeshift torches, while others tried to help the injured. The power flickered, plunging the blocks into darkness. Through the smoke, a few guards were seen retreating toward the towers. Others were trapped and surrounded, their radios crackling with static. Outside, state troopers began to form a perimeter. Helicopters circled overhead, shining searchlights through the haze. The prison yard looked like a war zone. By midnight, control of the penitentiary was gone. The inmates had taken over most of the prison. From a broken window, one of them shouted their demands: better food, medical care, working showers, and an end to the beatings. They wanted someone from the state government to listen. They weren't just rioting. They were trying to be heard. But as the hours passed, the fire spread, and panic began to take over. Even those who wanted peace couldn't stop the chaos that had been unleashed. The old brick walls of the penitentiary cracked from the heat. Debris fell from the ceiling. Inside, the smell of smoke and burnt rubber filled the air. The power lines went down, cutting the prison off from the outside world. Troopers outside couldn't see what was happening inside, only the glow of the flames rising higher. Families of the guards gathered at the gates, crying for news. Reporters began to arrive. The whole state of Oklahoma was watching as McAlester burned. Suddenly, a deep explosion shook the ground. A gas line had burst inside one of the prison workshops. The sound echoed like thunder, and a massive fireball rose above the roof. Troopers outside dug for cover. Inside, men ran in every direction. The flames spread fast, blocking escape routes and filling the corridors with heat and smoke. Those who could still move began searching for shelter, banging on doors, shouting for help. Just before dawn, the chaos reached its peak. Through the smoke, a group of inmates emerged from the main corridor carrying a white bedsheet, waving it toward the watchtower as a sign of truce. But behind them, others shouted in defiance, refusing to give up. The tension was unbearable. Peace or destruction, it could go either way. Then, from the far end of the yard, came a voice through a loudspeaker. It was the warden. His words cut through the noise. "Stand down now or we'll come in." The prisoners froze. The lights flickered back on, and for a moment, the world stood still inside those burning walls. No one knew what would happen next. The warden's voice echoed through the smoke. "Stand down now or we'll come in." Everyone froze. The shouting stopped. All that remained was the crackling of fire and the hum of the loudspeaker. The prisoners looked at one another. No one wanted to move first. For a few long seconds, the riot fell silent. Outside, troopers waited in formation. Their trucks' headlights cut through the fog and smoke. Reporters whispered into microphones, describing the glow rising over McAlester. The whole state of Oklahoma was watching. Inside, a small group of inmates decided to talk. They waved the same white bedsheet from before, calling out to the tower. They wanted food, water, and safety, and a chance to tell their side of the story. The warden agreed to listen, but warned them the fires had to stop first. By sunrise, communication had started. A state negotiator used a bullhorn to talk from outside the main gate. The prisoners shouted their demands through the broken windows. Better food, medical care, working showers. For the first time in days, someone was listening. The prison yard was covered in ash and debris. Smoke curled up from the burned laundry building. Dozens of inmates sat quietly, exhausted from the chaos. The air was hot, heavy, and still. Every sound echoed like a memory of the night before. Word reached Oklahoma City. Governor David Hall ordered state troopers and the National Guard to hold position. He didn't want another tragedy like Attica. Negotiations had to work. No one wanted more loss. By mid-morning, the media had gathered in full force. News cameras pointed toward the burning walls. Reporters described the riot as Oklahoma's worst prison disaster. Helicopters circled overhead, filming the aftermath for the nation to see. Inside, one of the inmate leaders shouted through a megaphone, "This isn't about escaping. It's about living like human beings." Some guards who were held inside nodded weakly, tired but alive. Both sides wanted the same thing now, for it to end. At noon, the warden made a promise over the loudspeaker. If the prisoners released the guards, no one would be harmed. There would be hearings, investigations, and changes. The inmates hesitated, then began leading the hostages toward the main gate. The first guard stepped out, covered in ash, blinking in the sunlight. Troopers rushed forward to guide him away. Slowly, more followed. By afternoon, it was over. The Oklahoma State Penitentiary riot had finally ended. When the troopers entered the prison, they found ruins. Walls blackened by fire, offices destroyed. The cafeteria was gone. The roof collapsed. It was one of the worst prison damages in American history. Dozens were injured. The prison would take years to rebuild. Investigations began immediately, exposing poor conditions and neglect. Oklahoma's entire correctional system was about to change. In the months that followed, the state promised reform. New leadership, new policies, and more funding for safety. For a while, hope returned, but scars remained. Both inmates and officers carried memories that would never fade. As the sun set over McAlester, the smoke was gone. The new walls stood taller, painted fresh and clean. But behind the silence, the echoes of 1973 still lived on, a reminder of what happens when people are pushed beyond their limits. The Oklahoma State Penitentiary riot of 1973, a revolt that began in anger, ended in ash, and changed the way Oklahoma saw its prisons forever.